One. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another one. This is Brian S. Arnold here with the Authority Project. And I have my new good friend here. Mike Killen is in the house, and he says he is here to help us confidently charge higher prices and answer customers who say that's too expensive and still get them to say yes. Is that right, Mike?
That's exactly it. Yeah, bang on. Word for word. Brilliant. I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, we shall see what he can do today for us.
Yeah.
We shall see on this current episode of the Authority Project.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, feast your eyes and tune your ears. It's that time again. We are live with another episode of the Authority Project. It's the video podcast streamed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope, where we talk to digital marketers, business coaches, and creators of all kinds on how they've built authority in their field and how you can mimic their success. Developing authority, building your audience, and attracting better clients to your own business. Now, without further ado, let's bring to the virtual stage your host, Brian S. Arnold.
All right, we are back with another one. This is Brian S. Arnold, and we're here with the Authority Project. You are the project. We want to help you sell more of what you're great at, and I am honored to be here with the man of the hour on the virtual stage, Mike Killen. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Yeah, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm just waiting for some warmer weather, so it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it always gets to this time of year where I start thinking, I'm done with this. Like I'm gonna move to South Africa or something. I'm sick of this, and then it just starts to get lighter in the morning, and I'm like, oh, we've broached it. So yeah, I feel you, man.
Yeah, and if you see that the daylight savings time finishes up, and he's like, "Oh, I got some more daylight." That's like the best time. It's like, "Oh yeah,
yeah." That's exactly it.
Oh, it's wonderful. Because right about now, usually in the wintertime, it'll be dark. Right about now,
Yep.
We're just like, oh, it sucks. But here we go. Let's get into it. Well, actually, before we dive in, can you please tell us who you are personally and then professionally?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Mike Killen. Based in this kind of tiny little town in England called Honiton. It's like a tiny town. And I used to work in London, and I lost. I was depending on who you asked, I was either fired or made redundant from a corporate marketing job. Yeah, and I moved down here, middle of nowhere. Met a girl, got married. I absolutely love it here. They've literally just installed fiber to the premises as well. So I'm set. Like, nice. I don't mind where I am now, you know? Yeah. And like when I lost my job and became quite disillusioned with corporate marketing, because you go through university and you're told, you know, get a good job and et cetera. And it was just all taken away from me for no real reason. And so I did kind of what any sensible person would do, and I went to Vegas with my brother and just blew the last of my money. And I was like, maybe we should kind of think about this a bit more sensibly. And that's when I decided to start up an agency. I figured I've been buying these services from these guys for a while. Maybe I can do it myself. And that would have been about 2012. And then 2016, exited the agency, started up this company now, which I run, called Sell Your Service. And what we do now is, well, when I exited my agency, I was in a colleague of mine, a guy called Troy Dean, who runs an awesome company called WP Elevation. He was out in Miami, and he said, well, come out and speak to my guys, because you don't really know what you're going to be doing. And I was like, I'm a bit unsure of what I want to do next. And he said, well, come out and talk to them. And the number one question they had was, how could you possibly sell a website for 25 grand? How could you sell marketing services for 25 grand? And I was like, that's easy. That's the easy bit. So I kind of wrote that down, and that became a webinar, and then a Facebook group, and then a series of webinars. And now it's a course and books and software. And so we're sales training for marketing agencies now. And that's what I do day in, day out.
I love it. That takes care of my second question, was what is your current project? I'm sure that's probably in but if you want to add something else to that, you can.
Not really. I mean, we're, right now like specifically our big thing is working on conversions. So we're looking at optimizing anyone who comes into our system, like any audience member, new lead. We want to make sure that we serve them as best we can. So we've taken on some more coaches, and we've got a few more team members and stuff. So we're really looking at just trying to serve our audience as best we can at the moment. And I'm learning a lot because I'm very good at the sales side, but I'm not great at the community management side and the engagement side. It's a very different process. So that's what I'm working on right now. Yeah. But you know, that's a long-term project.
Oh, definitely. So lastly, before we get into it, what is your daily routine?
Oh, good question. I really like that. So I'm yeah, I've got a really strict set routine. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning, okay. And then I exercise probably around 2 hours a day, okay. And then spend some time with my wife. During lockdown, it's slightly different because obviously you don't have a commute. Like the UK is in total lockdown. But other than that, then maybe I'll either drive into the gym or I'll drive into the office. And depending on what day it is, I've got quite a set routine. I try to spend 2 hours in the morning, usually from 9 till 11, writing content. So that's either writing video scripts, filming videos, writing books, writing emails. And then after that, depending on what day it is, maybe it'll be meetings or calls or more training. But I've got quite a set like calendar. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. And that level of discipline has given me massive amounts of freedom. And I used to be really against it, but I'm very much into the routine now. I'm a huge believer of it.
I like how you said that sticking to the schedule gives you more freedom. Because people would think that when you say that you're restricting yourself, but it's actually giving you more time to do everything that you need to do. So that's perfect. So let's dive into the topic at hand, because I know that's what people want to hear.
Let's do it, man.
How do you confidently? This is great because you're saying you're confident about this.
Yeah.
How do you confidently charge higher prices and answer customers who say that's too expensive? Yep. And still get them to say yes.
Yeah. So this is probably the number one problem that I come across, and it's the root of it is in almost everything that we touch. So typically I work with marketing agencies, specifically marketing agencies that build marketing funnels. And we could have gone down any path. Like I said at the start, it was, how do you sell a website for 25 grand or 10 grand? And the confident part comes from, basically, if you're going to set a price, if it's 50 quid or 100 quid or $10,000 or $30 million, whatever, how do you do that with confidence? And what that really means is, how can you justify that price internally? And I think most people, I'd be kind of interested to know your thoughts on this. I think that most people undercharge for their services. I don't know if you feel the same way or what you've seen.
My theory is this. It depends on who it is. It depends on who it is. If you're just starting out, I've come to the realization that you need to start up with the price that you're most comfortable with. If you're just starting out, if you're not confident about a price that you're selling, it's going to come out in your marketing. It's going to come out in your promotion. It's going to come out in how you say it. So if you're like, this is $297. But it has this, and you're saying already, but to that price,
sure.
You know, but if you know you have the offer, you have the system, you have results, you know, as long as you're confident on that, I think, that the higher the price, and you know that you're going to get, you already know you're getting results, and you're confidently saying that. I love to get your response to that.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's perfect, because I'd say that everyone starts there, and that's pretty reasonable. Like, you've been doing this for 15 minutes. Yeah. You don't really know what to charge, right? Like, you know, and personally, a lot of people say like, oh, the market dictates the price. And I completely disagree with that personally. I think you set the price. The price has got nothing to do with the customer. It's your business. So it's your price. And when I tell people like, oh, you should be charging 25 grand for your marketing services, you should be charging $500 an hour plus for any consulting work. If the customer wants to work with you, it needs to be minimum 5 figures that they're willing to invest, right? It doesn't matter if you have been going for 1 week, 1 year, 1 decade. Because what a lot of people do is they set their price. They then find some customers who are kind of willing to pay that. And this is true at all levels. When I first started, I was like, oh, maybe £500 for a website. That seems kind of crazy to me because like a WordPress theme is only $20. So it's insane that someone would give me £500 for a site, right?
Right.
But even at that level, the customer was still like, I don't know, that's kind of expensive. I've seen someone who can do it for $299. I've seen someone who can do it for $199. And what we then do is we get into this mindset, this trap that I can't charge higher prices than this because my current customers aren't happy with the price that they've got. Earlier, we mentioned the book, and I said, I think it's currently on 99 cents on Kindle. When I first launched it, I did it at 99 cents. I had people emailing me like, oh, have you got a cheaper version? I'm like,
really?
yeah. Right. And I was like, well, no, I've got a free version, but it's sat on my laptop. Like, I don't know how much cheaper I could make it other than free to get some kind of like value exchange. Right.
Wow.
So the price that people are always going to think it's too expensive. And this kind of then, like I said, people never seem to raise their prices because they're afraid of losing the customers that they've got. But you have to understand that it doesn't matter how high you push your prices. Someone's always going to find you expensive. That is the nature of our economy, is you are always going to be too expensive for 99% of the market. When you're charging $500, you're too expensive. When you charge 10 grand, you're too expensive. When you charge 100 grand, you're too expensive. So you have to immediately move away from this mindset that you're going to have fewer customers or it's going to be harder to find customers. I'll tell you from experience, and I'm sure you'll say the same, but it is as much hard work to find someone who will spend $1,000 with you as it is to find someone who will spend 10 grand with you. Like the amount of effort and blood and sweat and tears and trauma and pain you put into it, you end up with this. You end up with one customer. Yeah. And to me, I'd rather work with someone who's got a big budget. So that's kind of the first initial part is getting over that mindset.
That's great. That's great. So I can see why this is such a dilemma. This is one of the biggest, like I said, it's one of the biggest topics about pricing.
Yeah.
So I think, now I'm going to put out this question. What's the science now? What's the science of creating an offer that people will say yes now that it's worth 25K or 10K or 5K, whatever you want to do? But what is the science that you're confident that this offer will reasonably say yes to this?
Yeah. So, all right. So if we have a look at, I don't know if you've heard of the business Loro Piana. So it's like piano, but with an A. They are a high-end exclusive luxury Italian brand. Okay. They sell like, dumbbells, like gym dumbbells. They sell everything. They sell slippers, they sell cardigans, they sell wallets, they sell gloves and whatever. And their exercise equipment, I exercise a lot, and I jokingly looked at their exercise equipment. Their dumbbells, which are maybe 2 pounds and 4 pounds, they're tiny weights. They're not huge. They're around $1,700 each, just for the pair of weights, right? Ludicrously expensive. Their cardigans, like their pullover jumpers, are about $25,000. So if we look, right, and to me, I'm like, that's insane. But they've got a market. They've got a market out there who is buying it. We know this because their company has gone from strength to strength to strength. Do they use some kind of special wool? Kind of. It's cashmere, but even then, the steel is the same steel that they would use in my dumbbells. So honestly, what the difference is there. But if we look at a business like that is able to justify that kind of price, we have to look at, well, what are they doing that everyone else isn't? And the first thing is they have set prices. They have extremely specific set prices. And this is the irony of pricing is if you, and you said it perfectly earlier, like if you go, oh, it might be $297. Instead, if you say it's $24,973.89, that's a specific price. Why is it so specific? Well, obviously the impression is you've done this 100 times before, so you must know what the price is. Therefore, you would only give something that's that specific. So surely someone with a specific price has done this before, and therefore knows that this is the cost. So the first thing, in a really funny way, is actually just setting a price, is knowing what your price is. And the way that we kind of try to work this out is, if you want your business to make $100,000 a year in revenue, how many customers do you want to work with? If you say maybe you work with 4, great. So that's 4 times 25,000. There's your pricing. You want to find 4 customers worth 25 grand. Now, it actually doesn't even matter what the product is yet. You need to work out the price first. The price comes first, and then what you deliver comes next. What most people do is they will cobble together a shopping list of things that they want to give to the customer. In my environment, it's websites. So people want to do a website and website design and marketing and email marketing. They'll write that in. Maybe they'll send a proposal and they'll think, how much can I get away with charging this? How much? Right. Like, and they're kind of, I don't know. And they'll try and figure it out. And maybe if you're a personal trainer, you say, well, I'll do like an hour a week with them, and I'll do a couple of Loom videos, or and I'll show them some diet plans, and they write the shopping list first. And the question they then ask is, how much do I feel I can get away with charging? And what we do is we flip that and we say, how much do you want to make per customer? You go, I want to make 25K per customer. Fantastic. Now tell me, what are you going to give me for 25 grand? Write out what you're going to give for 25 grand. And that subtle shift in doing the list first and then the price, to the smarter way of doing it, which is doing the price first and then the list, completely changes your perspective over what you're going to give, because you're just writing out everything that you think would be included inside a 25K price. You're not trying to guess the other way around. You're putting it in there and you think, all right, that seems pretty reasonable for the amount of money that I'm asking. And that is basically there's then a ton of stuff that comes afterwards, like, how do you continue to justify that? And you talked earlier about it, and stuff like sales collateral, sales pages, content, being interviewed, authority pieces. The 4 A's that we have are audience, which is, do you have a defined niche? If you've got a defined niche, you can set your prices higher. General businesses attract general pay. Specialist businesses attract specialist pay. And if you flip what you do and you say, we only work with coffee importers who have at least 2 office locations, it actually doesn't matter whether you do websites, personal training, YouTube videos, it doesn't matter. If you've got the defined audience to start with, that's one way of increasing your price. The second way, as I mentioned, is amount, which is setting the right price. A for authority is then, what have you put out into the marketplace that proves you are who you say you are? You don't even have to have had a customer yet. Blog content, videos, podcasts, interviews, books, sales pages, brochures, old school, like printed media, brochures and stuff. And then finally, assets. And assets falls a little bit into like sales collateral as well, like sales pages, web pages, webinars. But also, if you're a business and you have 3 or 4 products, even if you're a service business, even if you're an accountant, but you have 3 or 4 products, so productized services at varying price points, some cheap, some more expensive, that again gives the impression that, well, you must be worth working with because you have a suite of products. Like, one product doesn't make money, it's a product ecosystem that makes money. So those 4 things, I find, when you begin to work on those in your business, that's what justifies the price. And then the second part, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, is closing, and maybe that's the hard part. Sorry, I was rambling there a bit. I apologize.
But I like how you said about having your audience. Can you dive into the importance of knowing who your audience is? Because I think that's important about how you're setting these parameters for a price here. The riches are in the niches, baby. It's so we have a saying at Sell Your Service, that the company is, sell futures, not features. So the way to sell anything is you never sell the feature, you sell the future. You sell the long-term benefit that someone is looking at. From everything from watching free content on YouTube or watching this podcast to buying like a $150,000 yacht. Someone isn't buying the individual component pieces of a boat. What they're buying is freedom or a sense of status. So they're buying this future.
And if you want to sell big high ticket items, you need to deliver a big future. And if you want to deliver a big future, you have to know what you're going after. So you have to be specific about the audience. If I'm working with, let's take my colleague Kate, she works with mums who are business owners, and her whole pitch is, I'm going to help you finish work by 3 p.m. so you can go pick up the kids. You have no more mum guilt, right?
I like that.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? It's so specific. And I was like, that's genius. What she actually is a kind of halfway between marketing automation and productivity. That's a little bit about what she does. But rather than telling people what she does, because what you do is irrelevant compared to who you work with, it's now 100 times easier for us to start making referrals for her. Because if I ever hear of a mum who's like, I'm sick and tired of working late, I feel guilty all the time that I'm never able to pick up my kids and never really able to hang out with them, I'm like, you need to work with Kate. You need to work with my colleague Kate, right? When you have a specific niche, it's first of all easier for people to make referrals. And secondly, people will pay much more money for a very specific problem to be solved. So rather than going to a business and saying, oh, I do marketing automation and productivity, they're like, yeah, we've kind of had 1,000,000,001 people do that. When you turn that round and you position the future that this person could have as, you will no longer have mum guilt and you'll be able to pick your kids up at 3 p.m. because she's so specific about the audience that she wants to work with.
Yeah.
People will pay crazy money for that.
Yeah.
People will pay crazy money. So yeah, having a niche is the fastest way to grow your business. And to me, it's the first thing you need to do. You need to define the audience. And that's what I mean by audience niche, that they kind of cross over a little bit there.
Yeah. Can you give us those 5 A's again? Someone's commenting on that.
I'll give you all 6 because we're going to cover the other 2 in a bit. So the first one is the first one is audience, which is your niche. The second one is amount, which is your pricing, like how much do you charge. The third one is assets. And these are in order as well. These are in the order. You need to check these off. Assets, which is products, basically anything that puts money in your pocket without you having to be there. So everything from like a squeeze page that just captures leads, that's an asset because it just works, right? It just puts money in your pocket. Fourth is authority, which is how you prove you are who you say you are. Podcast interviews, books, content. It's putting stuff out there, right? Yeah. Then we have attention, which is physically how you get known in the marketplace. And that is exactly what you're doing here. That's creating content. It's putting your message out there. When you know who you want to work with, because you have an audience, way easier to get attention. And then 6th is action, which is closing them and saying to them, hey, I can help. Would you like some help with that? Sign here. And that's when they usually say, this is very expensive, but maybe we'll cover that.
Yeah. So I want to get into this because this is why I answered you the way I answered you before about what I think about the pricing, because I've heard ad nauseum from both sides. So are you against low ticket overall? And then sometimes you can start that and build a buyer's list and go and work your way up with those same people. Are you against that from the beginning or from any level? Should you just tell people, you know what, you can start high ticket from the beginning? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, okay, this is a really good question. And there is, like you said, you're right. There is complete polar opposites. You ask one person, they'll tell you one thing. You ask another person, they'll tell you another. I had a bit of a reputation for a while for being someone who's like, oh, Mike wants to go and like buy a cup of coffee, 25 grand. He's going to sell a new book, 25 grand. And that's not true. What I believe is that you should charge $25,000 for $25,000 worth of work. That's what I believe. The problem is most people are charging $3,000 for $25,000 worth of work. That's the funny thing. You're already delivering 25K, 10K, 8K, 100K's worth of value. You're already probably doing that. You're just not charging enough. The gap isn't your experience. And the mistake we make is people think, well, as I become more experienced, I'll be able to increase my prices. And it never happens. I know guys who have been doing this 10, 15 years. We know photographers, artists, videographers, writers who are still struggling to increase increase their price and they think, I just need to get more experience. That's not true. I think you should charge 25K for 25K's worth of work. And by that same logic, I believe that if it's a $19 product, it should be $19 worth of value. I mean, you want to say, obviously, it's $100 worth of value and you charge $19, right?
Right.
You need a product suite. The cold, hard reality is that all businesses need to have a product that's free. All businesses need to have a product that is like a low ticket, low barrier to entry. The book, the podcast recording series, whatever it is, $19, $47, just something that they're going to have in their PayPal account anyway. Then you need to have some kind of core offer. A core offer on average needs to have at least $1,000 profit margin, right? So it could be $5,000, but it costs you $4,000 to deliver it, whatever it might be, but it needs to have $1,000 profit margin. Then you need to have some kind of recurring revenue product. You need to have some kind of subscription product, whatever it is. There's 101 options. Then if someone wants to work with you as the business owner, as the person who runs the business, they need to be willing to pay 5 figures. And the reason for that is because when they're giving you 5 figures, they're taking you out of the business. You're no longer able to work on your business and grow the value of your business. So you should be compensated for that time. If you have products that are lower ticket, I love lower ticket products. My business is built on lower ticket products. I adore building them and kind of scaling those numbers, but I can't deliver on them. If I sold a £500 course, it can't be me sat down giving 6 hours worth of content every single time, right? Right. So that's why we then have assets. So a really important part of the 6A framework is assets. If you have products and things in your ecosystem, in your product suite, we call it a product menagerie because sometimes it can get a bit sort of unruly, frankly.
Right. If
you have them and people can buy them, if you want to work with someone and someone says, I physically don't have $25,000, like by the way, if they've got $10,000, they've got $25,000, like that's not a huge jump. But we have a lot of people who can't afford to work with me one-on-one. Fine. I've got a course that's $1,500 or $2,000, and you can take that. I still want to serve that segment of the market, but I can't serve them with my time because my time I need to spend on running the business. So I believe you should have a wide variety and a suite of products and keep pushing that level up and up and up and see what would you continue to deliver for $100,000 or something. That's my take on it personally. But I don't think anyone should just do one or the other because I think that's bad advice.
Okay, so this is awesome. So I want to get into the nitty gritty, Mike, about what a 25K product or service looks like. Sure. When you're dealing with your clients and they want to do 25K types of services, you're looking at them and you see what they have currently. What do you do and say you need this, and this to justify that price?
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways of looking at this. First of all, when I look at a marketing agency and they say, we want to start charging 25K, I look at the stuff they're doing already, and the stuff they're doing already is probably worth more than that. And there's a really quick way of working this out. So like I said, let's go back to let's say I'm going to put $25,000 into your account. Right? I put it into your bank account. There's nothing you can do with it. You can't return it. You have to use it. What are you going to give me in exchange? And what people do is they write out a long list of stuff. And that's typically what these marketing agencies have done. It's typically what coaches, consultants, personal businesses, freelancers, they do. And then you need to look at it again and say, well, how much would it cost me to deliver that to the customer? How much would it cost me to get someone else to deliver to the customer? And all of a sudden you realize that $25,000 doesn't go very far. $25,000 is not a lot of money when you're paying other people to do it.
Right.
If we roughly use a cost times 3 method, it works out roughly that a third of $25,000 is about $7,500 or $8,000 roughly. You now know that you have $8,000 of that customer's money to play with in order to get someone else or a team or start hiring people. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen if you continue working at it. Yeah. You have $8,000 to get people to do some work for you.
Right.
What you then need to think about is you need to go back to that statement I said earlier. You need to sell futures, not features. because let's take one of my customers, right? So a consulting customer. He runs a localization company, which is kind of like translation, but not quite the same, and very successful, over £1 million worth of turnover. And he had marketing agencies approach him before, and sales agencies and this kind of stuff. But I asked him, I was like, well, ultimately, what do you want to do with the business? Like, where do you want to go? He said, well, I want to grow it because I want to sell it. Basically, I want to exit the business now, and I want to basically spend more time on my boat. Yeah. So I was selling that. What I was selling is saying to him, is hiring me and paying me and my team $25K, in his case $32K, but £32,000, is paying £32,000 worth it to know that in 2 years you'll be able to exit the business and start sailing on a boat. He was like, yeah, that's more tangible to me because it's based around him. You don't sell the project, you sell the customer. And it sounds, almost cheesy because people are like, they'll see right through that. They don't. They really don't. They want you to start connecting with their goal, their dream, and their desire. They want someone to start saying, I'm not just going to give you some marketing. What I'm going to do is, because for some people, the goal of running their business will be, we want to expand, and I want to take on a business partner, and we want to go from 2 locations to 5 locations. So now instead, and this comes from like the discovery calls and working with the customer and talking to them and understanding your audience. Like, is your audience someone who wants to expand, or are they people who want to exit the business? Whatever the difference is this someone who wants to work fewer hours? Is this someone who wants to take on their first employee? So if you understand what the future is of that customer and the future desire, that's the next stage. And here's the funny thing, right? And this is kind of, I think earlier we mentioned it, like, how do you deal with someone who says that's too expensive? When someone then says to you, 35 grand, that's a lot of money. That's too expensive. That's too much money. Yeah. You agree with them. You go, yeah, it's a lot of money. Sign here, send me over the deposit, and we can get started today. Because they're not saying no. That's them just voicing their opinion. Okay. 99% of people who go, oh man, that's a crazy amount. I've never spent 50 grand on marketing before. I've never spent 10 grand on a personal trainer before. This is a lot of money. This is more money than your competitors charge. All of that is true. All of that is 100% factually true. So you don't argue with them. And what a lot of people do is they get defensive. Rather than agreeing with the customer, they get defensive over the price. And they say, no, we're not that expensive. You think about the value and the amount we'll work with you. And they go, we're gonna make sure we'll handhold you all the way, and you're gonna have this fantastic. You don't see any of that. What the customer wants to know is, you've heard me that this is a lot of money. You've heard me that this is, and you have to agree with them. It is a lot of money. It's crazy that someone would give you that kind of money. So you're on the same side of the table as them, rather than seeing it as opposites, like negotiating. Imagine yourself on the same side of the table as them, looking at the proposal, and they go, $35,000. That's a lot of money. Think, yeah, it is a lot of money. Yeah, I agree. Sign here. We can get started today. And they go, okay, sign there. That's how you answer that question, because they're not saying no.
Okay. I love that. You remind me of two different examples I know of that way back in the day when internet marketing started. There was a guy named Armand. He's still out there marketing. It was Armand or Min, something like that. And he had these. He was one of the first people who started doing software products from marketing, and his prices were solid $97. Yep. And back in the day, I was just like, $97, what? And he stuck to his guns. Yeah. And it was $97 for the longest time, and he got quite wealthy off of keeping that price in there. It was always $97. That was it. And then I think recently he doubled it, after a while. But just like, I think if you stick to your guns, that what you're saying, just stick to your guns because you're confident that this is going to get the result that they need.
Yeah. So there's a lot to be. So first of all, like I said, like if someone's got 10 grand, they've got 25 grand. If someone says to you, my budget is $100 and your price is 10 grand, there's nothing you can do with that, which is why having a product suite is so important. Okay. You say, look, you can't work with me, but I can give you this course, audio guide, book, whatever series for $197. Go ahead and pick that up. And no one in their right mind is going to go, whoa, 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 whoa. So you want me to pay $100 because I can't afford your $25,000 product? I want the $25,000 product, but I only want to pay $100. You know, that's a crazy person. Like there's no way you can negotiate with them. Right. So having product suites at different product points, 100%. But yeah, be firm on the price. The price is the price. Now you can negotiate on inventory, which is slightly different. And this is another tactic that I like to use when someone goes, I don't know. And bearing in mind, my prices, like I said, they're specific. It's not $36,000. It's $35,000, $472, $472.89, right? It's specific and weird and awkward because it gives a better impression. And they go, we were really hoping to spend 20 grand. I go, fantastic. What would you like to remove from the proposal here? What would you like to remove from the specs in order to reduce the price? And they go, oh, we didn't want to remove anything. We just wanted to pay less. And I go, oh, okay, fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, it's $34,000. Sign here and we can get started tomorrow. Because all of a sudden, they don't want to lose. It's on the table there in front of them. It's on the tray. I'm like, this is what you could have. Yeah, it is a bit more money than you were hoping to spend. We can go backwards and forwards and play this game all you want. But I tell you what, if you can't afford all of that, I can take something away that does reduce the price. How does that sound? And all of a sudden, they don't want that because you're now taking something away from them. You're still profitable. That's why it's important to know your numbers, know your profit margins, know what you can do for those different levels. But also, my favorite way of dealing with someone who can't spend, if let's say the price is 20 grand and they say, oh, we only wanted to spend 10 grand. I'll go, okay, yeah, I completely understand that. I'll immediately go into a 30 grand offer. I'll start saying to them, well, what might be more beneficial for you is our 30K project, our gold level project, or our platinum level project, because that comes with an extra 6 weeks worth of coaching. And we also do a weekly audit. It's going to help you get there a little bit quicker. And you'd be surprised at the amount of businesses who say, I only want to spend 10 grand. I only want to spend 10K, who are then actually upsold to a product that's 3 times more expensive, right? Yeah. Again, you're agreeing with the customer. You're on their side. You're not trying to argue with them. Both of you have to agree to reach an agreement. So if you're both agreeing with each other, you say, you know what might be better suited. The worst comes to worst, they'll go, I can't afford the 30K. All of a sudden, the 20K one looks a lot more reasonable. Yeah. But you'd be surprised how often you can upsell someone to a higher ticket product if they can't afford the mid-level one that you're talking about. These are just some of the ways that I try to teach people to be as profitable as possible, because you are already worth that. In my opinion, I think most people are. They're undercharging themselves personally, and they get a bit flustered when the customer says that's a lot of money. So this is some of the stuff we teach.
This is great. This is great. So I want to get into the big F word here on either end. Yeah. So the fear of trying to sell the product, and then the fear of, oh my gosh, you paid 25,000. Yeah. Now what do I do? Yeah. And there's the fear of that. Like, what do we do now? So can you deal with both sides of that pendulum there?
The second one there, the latter one, the one where you're like, oh my God, they bought. Right. Like that's easy to deal with, because years ago when I first started consulting, I was talking to a telco company, and one thing led to another. I think I said to them, this is going to be around £36,000, right? Roughly, like something like that. And they bought it, but I kept increasing the price because I actually didn't want to work with them. I was like, okay, I would usually 12 grand and now it's going to be 36 grand. Exactly the same product, and they bought it. And I remember calling up my business partner. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? He was like, well, you better deliver 36 grand's worth of value. Right. So you will naturally go overboard. Naturally, most people will. If I put 36K, the sheer weight of guilt means that people will naturally deliver as much value as possible. Some really easy ways to do that: keep in regular contact with the client, always be on their side, agree with them, take ownership when things go wrong, be honest with them. What people really want is a reliable supplier. they're actually happy if you make mistakes. I found if you are open and honest and you communicate with them regularly, that's why a VA is so important, because the VA can do the daily communications, just updating them on whatever it is, right? Just regular communications. That's the hard part. That's the easy one. The hard part, that the fear of rejection, is you want to collect as many no's as possible, because every no is going to get you closer to a yes. So what I mean by that is, I'm pitching you a product, the Yeti mug. We don't really have these in the UK, but they're huge in America, right?
Yeah.
And people,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
we don't. I got this because I went over to the States and I was given it as a gift, right? And these are like, some people pay like hundreds of dollars for these on eBay and Amazon for like special edition ones, right?
Wow. Okay.
And evidently the price then has got nothing to do with the product, right?
No.
And when I say absolutely not, I don't want that, that's crazy money, this person selling it needs to go, okay, why don't you want it? And I go, because I would never get $500 worth of value from a mug. What I've then told them is the reason I'm not going to buy. I haven't told them the reason I'm rejecting them as a human being. I've told them I don't see enough value. So you've got one or two options. You can either agree with them and accept it and go, if you can't see enough value in it, there's nothing I can do about it. Or you can try and turn it. So you want to get rejections. And the funny thing about no is customers need to say no at least once before they do buy anyway. It's like a control thing. I'm not smart enough to know the psychology behind it, but no is a control word. No is a word that the person with options and in control and in command can say. We're going to this destination? No. I've made the decision? No, right? So when I'm selling to you and you've bought into it and you go, yeah, I do want to buy this, a part of you still is going to say no somewhere along the line. And I want to listen to it. I want to accept it. I even want to agree with it to an extent. Like when the people go, it's crazy money, that's way too expensive. I go, yeah, I know, man. Tell me about it. Everything's expensive now. I pay too much for my mortgage, pay too much for my car. I pay too much for my internet bills. I completely agree with you. Anyway, sign here and we can get started. That no is them telling you, help me justify spending this money. When they say, no, I don't want to buy this because ... because it's too expensive, because, and I don't really see expense as an objection, but that fear of rejection, if you start having fun with it and realizing they're not rejecting you as a person, they don't need an immediate response, and it's not an argumentative thing. If you kind of reword it in your brain, and instead, if you hear them saying, help me justify spending this money with you, all of a sudden it becomes kind of like a fun game to find reasons why the customer should buy as opposed to why they shouldn't. And it's not easy. Doesn't happen overnight, but yeah, start having more fun with it and start agreeing with the customer more. That's what I would say. And when you start agreeing with them, amazing things start to happen, because you're seen as more reasonable. You're seen as being on their side.
I love it. Oh, this is great. This is great.
Good questions, man. I really like these. These are tough. I like them.
So I can see like just people who are trying to start this from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us about your start. Let's go there. What led you to this place? Why do you have so much passion on this topic? Where you've been in this place and you're like here, and there's a lot of people who might be watching now, like they don't know where to start. Can you tell them where you were and how you got to this place and why you're so passionate about it?
Yeah. So I was never particularly entrepreneurial at school. I don't think I never kind of the option. Maybe it was the same for yourself. Back when I was a kid, it was never even an option to own your own business. Like that was it certainly not at the extent we are now. Like it was get a job basically.
Right.
And I hated school. I really struggled with academics. And at about the age of 17, I left. And what I actually did is I trained to be a chef. And I worked in France in the kitchens. And long and short is I couldn't hack it. It's like it's like another level. If you think that salespeople are weird and like online marketing is hard, working in a French kitchen is just another level of brutal. And I remember thinking, I want a job with air conditioning, especially what I wanted. And I didn't have a degree or anything. So I thought, well, what can I do? And basically it's sales. So I started doing door-to-door selling because it was the only thing I could do. And bit by bit, that ended up leading. I did go to university to do marketing, which I don't know if I needed, but it kind of helped a little bit. And I kind of got a couple of corporate jobs. And like I said at the start, my corporate job was taken away from me within 24 hours. It was just gone, like done. That's it. You don't have a job here anymore. See you later. And I came home. I had to move in with my mum, had to, move into a spare room. And I'd basically gone from having a deposit on a house and, a really decent salary for someone in their early 20s and a company car. And I had a flat in Finland. I used to travel backwards and forwards between Finland. And then it was overnight taken away from me. And so I was like, well, I'm going to start up my own business. I'm never going to work for anyone else again. I just, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked for me. And I was like, well, what am I good at? I was like, I'm good at selling. I'm okay with selling. And every day I would, YouTube, even back then, this is kind of 2011, 2012, had sales content, right? From Dan Kennedy and Jim Rohn. So I would listen and watch sales content. I had Audible. I was reading books. I would attend seminars, and I did everything I could to learn how do I get better at sales. And then when I started an agency, the funny thing is our websites or email marketing or whatever were pretty average. Nothing spectacular. Certainly didn't win any awards. But it got so bad that I was poaching so much. Poaching sounds like I was going after my competition's clients, and that's not what we did. But I was so good at selling that they were trying to like blacklist me from local events, right? Like they would try and stop me from coming, and they would one time I was approached outside my car and like threatened. And I was like, well, it's got nothing to do with that. Yeah, I know. It's got nothing to do with the quality of my product. Everyone kept telling me that their product is better. So why am I making more sales then? What's the difference here? And it was because I was better at understanding the customer, having conversations. I was willing to pick up the phone more often. I was like, well, if you were the last person they spoke to, I'm going to be the next person they speak to. I was always willing to pick up the phone and make sales. And the thing I like about it is, you can't really control your intelligence. You can't really control how you look or what you look like. You can't really control your talent. There's a lot you can't control, but you can control how hard you work. You can completely be in charge of that. And I was like, that's what I'll do then. I'll outwork other people and start closing more sales and closing more deals. And eventually it led to some amazing customers and some great experiences. And I thought, it's crazy to me that other people don't know how to do this. So let's just teach other people how to do better at sales. And it's really grown from there. And I do love it. I like teaching people how to sell. And what it's about really is confidence. It all comes down to confidence, and raising people's confidence and increasing people's confidence is so important. The core goal of the company, of the business, of Sell Your Service is to raise the self-confidence of all entrepreneurs. It just so happens I don't have the money that Google or Coca-Cola has, so I have to focus on a particular market. I have to focus on marketing agencies and funnel builders. So yeah, it was a long process. Unfortunately, I wish I had kind of a more interesting answer, but it just came down to.
So well, I no, it's a good answer, because I like to nail this on the head for the people who are listening and who are watching right now, that it's not a simple task. It's really truly a journey.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's I know marketers have to do this. I know they have to do the thing where they say make 10,000 a month in the next 90 days or the next 30 days, sometimes, whatever, and make whatever 24,000 by this weekend. I know they have to. I know they have to do those kind of things, but it's not reality. It's not reality. I mean, there might be some exceptions to the rule. There always is, but it's not. It's not reality. No. So I'm glad that you did that, because I wanted to really drive that home, And can you just really quick, just like give us a small summary of if you can, of how to put this all together, about, how to charge higher. Just put it in like a good summation real quick.
Have an audience, set your pricing with the amount, have a variety of assets, work on your authority, get as much attention as you can, and ask people for the deal. Let's skip all that. The number one thing is ask people for the deal. Start offering more people help, saying, I can help you with this. Would you like some help? I find most people don't make enough offers. And if you want to start charging higher prices, just say to someone, I can help. It's 10 grand, but I can help. That's how you want to start with that. If I just sum it up.
Great. This is awesome. So I'm going to still give you the last question here that I give this to all of my guests, because something like this, they have people out there who have agencies, maybe they're coaches and they're trying to scale, those kind of things. Solopreneurs are ready to extend their business, and they want to do what you're doing. They have similar interests and goals as you are. They have similar journeys, and they want to be like Mike. The famous phrase. They want to be like Mike.
Yeah. Sure.
And can you tell them, just in your own words, how they can become an authority in this space?
Yeah, so you need to have the courage to be disliked. I think authority is all about standing up and saying, I believe in this. I believe that sales is one of the most important skills that people can have, whatever it is. And you need to accept the fact that some people aren't going to like that. And in my opinion, in order to become an authority, you need to have the absolute courage to stand up in the face of everyone else and say, I'm willing to be disliked for this particular statement or belief. And bizarrely, that is how more people will believe you're an authority, because you're willing to stand up and say, this is my stance. I know that some people won't like it. And that to me is it. So have the courage to be disliked. Is that okay? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's perfect, dude. Somebody says, dislike me, please.
Sure. That's great. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. I haven't heard that. That's awesome. Yeah.
But this is great. Please tell people where they can find you after the show, Mike, because I know they want to.
Yeah, sure. So I think you've had a couple of links up. If you want my free sales strategy guide on justifying a 25K price, it says for agencies, but it's pretty broad. You can just go to sellyourservice.co.uk/sales-book. I'm at sellyourservice.co.uk, and you can email me, michael@sellyourservice.co.uk. You can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/sellyourservice. That's probably the best way to get in touch. And I've got a couple of books on Amazon. If you look up Michael Killen on Amazon, I've got a few books on there.
Yeah, one especially that you guys definitely should get, the five-figure
funnels. Yeah.
Funnels. Unbelievable. So I am done. I am full. I hope everybody got a lot out of that. If you haven't, you know where to find them, people. You know where to find them. I'm sure he has no problem with helping you out further. So take care, everybody. Remember. What should they remember? Build it, share it, and they will come. We're out of here. We're out of here. Peace.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Authority Project. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you like what you heard, we want to hear from you. Subscribe, rate, and give an honest review. Share and tell your friends so they can hear too. And for even more authority building tactics, be sure to sign up at theauthorityletter.com. Get free weekly content and ongoing digital product giveaways to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. We certainly hope you got a key takeaway, or maybe an aha moment from today's broadcast. Just remember, it's your authority. Build it, share it, and they will come. Until next time.